Hi there. Welcome to this week's mini lecture on comparative politics. We're now in Module 4. This is my favorite sub-branch of political science, so I'm really excited that we're here. I know you've already got plenty to read and watch, so I'm going to try to keep this one kind of brief because I know there was a little extra reading this week. So here goes. What is comparative politics? So hopefully you're doing the reading and you're on the discussion post and you're figuring all this out for yourselves. But here's my takeaway, and you can take it or leave it. But comparative politics is one of three things. Number one, it's the study of non-US domestic politics. Sometimes we see this referred to as the study of foreign domestic politics, but that word foreign is really relative. So, the UK is foreign to us, but the US is foreign to someone from the UK. So assuming an Americentric understanding when we're here in the United States, we say that it's the study of foreign politics. But in actuality, it's just the study of non-US politics domestically. So not internationally. We're not really necessarily looking at any relationships between states, but rather looking at those individual states the same way we would study American government, but now we're studying, say, Brazil or China or Zimbabwe. Or number two, it's comparative politics if it follows the comparative method. The comparative method is a unique political science method. It has a wide variety of possible units of analysis. So unit of analysis is sort of like how big or how small, how detailed we're going to be looking. So a unit of analysis for an anthropologist is going to be different cultures. A unit of analysis for a comparative method could be a movement, a state, it could be several states, it could be a region, whatever it is, because what we're looking at in a comparative method is we're looking at cases, and we're looking at best cases, worst cases, and deviant cases. And we're trying to figure out what kind of norms or generalizations we can make, but always in the real world, in real life. We are not looking for theory. We are looking for utility. We're looking for relationships, and very importantly, we're looking for predictability. So given these circumstances, if they were to happen somewhere else, or under these same circumstances, or even under different circumstances, how do we think this unit of analysis, whether it be a social movement, the state of Argentina, whatever it may be, how will that leader or those people respond? And then number three, everything else. If it's not American government, and it's not political theory, and it's not international relations, and it's not studying bureaucracies, then it's going to be comparative, because comparative kind of is the etc. category. So that's important to know, because lots of things will be called comparative, and you may or may not have figured out why. All right, real quick reminder here. When we're talking about countries and we're comparing countries, which is a lot of times what happens in comparative politics, we have to always be concerned about the terms that we use and their equitability or dis-equitability. So back in the day, sorry, there's a typo there. Back in the day, countries were categorized as first, second, or third world. You can see on the map here, and that term stuck for a long time. Eventually, the second world just sort of, people stopped talking about it, and it was all about first world and third world. Then somebody decided that that wasn't fair, and we needed to change the terms to developed countries and developing countries. And then along the way, somebody decided that wasn't fair because development really has no particular meaning. Now we have the global north and the global south. Basically, it's just different ways of categorizing us and them. We always want to find some distinction that sets us, whoever us is, apart from a them, right? What is it that makes Africa or Latin America different from Europe and North America? So just be mindful when you're hearing or using these terms that you understand what they imply, right? So if you believe yourself to be in a developed nation, basically what that means is, your government is strong, as in it endures, You have social services like education provided. There is literacy, um, nearly 100% literacy. You have access to clean water, um, automobiles, public transportation, that sort of stuff. When we think of third world, developing, global south, them, um, those things might not look the same. So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. But for example, in, say for example, in Southeast Asia, you might have um, cell phones, but no electricity in the house. You might have to walk to a well, but have access to internet. So it looks a little different, but it doesn't mean that they're quote unquote not developed. It just means that they may not have a development that looks like our development, or it may be, um, countries that are um, quote unquote not modernized, and so um, again, it's just a way of distinguishing us versus them. Every country is in some sort of stage of development. Every country has things it gets right and things it could do better. And a lot of times what you have to remember is that the developed world or the global north got the way it is through exploitation of the global south. So, the reason that uh, the UK is so developed is because at one point or another they had colonies around the world and they were importing people, importing spices, importing lumber right from all their colonies, and they were taking those resources from elsewhere around the world and moving them to the UK. And the same is true with the United States and Canada and all of these other first world developed global north countries. And so there's always this big sort of animosity between these countries regarding uh, whose fault it is that they are the way they are. And um, this is a very big question, a very big area in comparative politics that gets looked at a lot. Make sure you read the article on BRICS. It's a pretty interesting read. Here, here they are: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are, quote unquote, up and coming countries. They have really made a name for themselves on the global stage. Um, they are venture capitalists. Um, they have thriving economies. They, have reached a certain status in the eyes of developed countries. The problem is, of course, that to get where they are, they tend to be underdeveloping other countries. So for example, China just opened up a trade deal with Ecuador, and they come in and they drill for Ecuador's oil because Ecuador doesn't have the means to drill for oil, and unfortunately, it happens to be in protected rainforests, and Ecuador gets like 10% of the profits, and China gets the other 90. So it ends up again this dis-equitable development. What the United States did to South Africa, let's say, or India, now India is doing to Bangladesh. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. BRICS are looked at heavily by comparative politics as well. All right, the article I wrote with Tom Bowerman. I thought this was a good piece to show you, to have you read, because it's sort of a quintessential comparative article. It's a regional level focus of Northern Triangle countries in Central America. We have two or more cases because we're looking at the three countries of the Northern Triangle. We're looking at a phenomenon that spans borders, so it's not a single country specific thing. So it is a study that can be generalized to other countries. If it happens in Guatemala, it's happening in Honduras. Something that El Salvador tries to do to mitigate could then be applied to Honduras, and we could say, hey, Honduras, you should try what El Salvador just tried. Again, prediction, generalizability, applicability. We use the lens of human trafficking to look at new types of gang analysis. which is something that hasn't been done before, so it's new. I told you before that comparative politics, just never stops. There's always new things popping out, new ways states are acting, new governments coming in, new administration, new states forming, new summits, new G8s, new UN accords. And so this article is useful in the real world. It's not a theory-based article. It's a reality-based article. And as I told in the discussion board, this article has been used by asylum and refugee immigration judges for individuals fleeing these 3 countries who say that they're fleeing gang violence or they're fleeing persecution. Then they read our article and they say, oh, well, it looks like there might be some merit to what they're saying. And I have been called in, so has Tom, to be an expert witness in these kinds of cases. So you can really see how this comparative article has more implications for daily life than, say, Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, right? Or something a little more abstract. Anyway, so I'm going to stop there so it doesn't get too long. Hope everybody's enjoying comparative, and I look forward to seeing what you do.